You're a PhD historian. You've got quite a bit of experience in the field. You have a YouTube channel that I've been watching. Could you tell us a little bit about history? What is history? What are we talking about here?
Well, history is a big subject. I mean, there's the technical definition that history is anything that happened in the past. But I think kind of more fundamentally, it's an attempt to explain the past. It's something that we create and use to figure out how we got here and who we are and what things we care about as people and as a society. So I think there's a little bit of, history is as a fact what it is, but I think the sort of discipline of history or the doing of history has more of a component of identity to it, of explaining what's important about the past and understanding it in terms that we can use it for the future. So I don't think there's a real specific definition beyond that. It's so broad that there's so many different things you can do with history that trying to put it in one specific box, I think, is hard.
Right. So we've got the regular conception of history as everything that's happened. Things have happened. We know that. And then there's the more technical academic definition where it's the discipline of history and looking into it, understanding it. How does it impact us? How can we use it to influence the future? So thanks for sharing that. What makes someone a historian? Where's the line between layperson and historian?
Well, I think it depends on whether you're talking about the discipline of history, in which case there's certain credentials or whatever. But I think there are many people who are historians who don't have degrees or a specific status within an institution. I think it's someone who engages responsibly with the past and makes an intellectually honest attempt to come to terms with it and to understand it. So there's historians who do all kinds of history. There's not just talking about people who do research and write books, but there are, of course, art historians and visual historians and music historians and people who probably wouldn't recognize that they do history in the things that they do. I am acquainted with a musician in Germany who plays a lot of Middle Eastern instruments. So he plays like the oud and like other stringed instruments from Iranian culture or Iraqi culture. And he does not identify with a historian, but he does a lot of like reinterpretation of traditional Middle Eastern songs or whatever with those kinds of instruments. And so you could argue that he's a historian because he's kind of bringing these pieces of music from the past into a modern context and trying to understand them and kind of explain them. So just as the definition of history is broad, I think the definition of historian is broad. But I would say that it's not just anyone who's talking about the past in any context. I think there has to be an actual engagement with, and an honest engagement with what happened in the past, what it means, and how we explain it.
So in your opinion, it's anybody who is responsibly approaching the study of the past and doing that honestly and studying it. And you're right, history is incredibly broad. There's fire historians who study specifically just the history of different fires, which is interesting. I owe the Ctruth patrons a huge thanks for their continued support in my endeavor to explore and map the world of chronology. Thank you all. And check out these other videos while you're here.